Welcome to another 10-minute enterprise. Today we're going to talk about the SDDC Diagnostic Info Utility, and it's a tool provided by Microsoft that you can easily download and install to get the diagnostic and health information about your S2D cluster. It contains all sorts of information, including cluster name, how many drives, and how they are configured, network settings for all the NICs in the system, and just about everything you'd want to know about your cluster. This information is organized in an XML and text files, so it's fairly easy to read. However, it's not impossible to write a PowerShell script to interpret the data into a more meaningful report, if you're PowerShell savvy. So to start off, we're going to install the tool here, and then we're going to run it. And to do that, we just need to run this command: install-package provider NuGet force. Then we're going to install module, private cloud diagnostic info and force. That should be, yep, there it goes. Now we're going to import the module. It's got a lot of things it has to import for that module. Alright, and now we're going to install one more thing here. And this is the Microsoft Network Diag. Okay, and it's all done. So now that we've got that, we just need to actually run it. So if we run get-sddc diagnostic info tabbed, there we go. We're going to run this directly on one of the cluster nodes. Doesn't matter which one. And it'll go through and run the report. Now this, while this is running, it's going to take several minutes, and it varies depending on how many nodes and disks you have, how many cluster resources there are, and because of the size of the report, it will vary kind of as well depending on what you have running. Usually it's a few hundred megabytes in size. It can be larger. I have seen some that are over 2 gigs in size. For like a 16 node cluster, but it usually doesn't take very long. I'd say anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, somewhere in that area. We'll see what mine does. Actually, my cluster is not super fast, but it should finish relatively quickly. While it's running though, I will go ahead and just pause the video and mute, and I'll be back as soon as it's finished. All right, and it looks like it's done here. So the script completed successfully. So we're going to go ahead and close this, and let's go over and find our file. So if we come under C, users, find our user directory, and here is our file right here. And if you look, it's 295 megabytes for my cluster here. Now, like I said, they can get bigger depending on how many resources you have and how many logs it has to pull. But we're going to go ahead and extract this out. And if you look at the amount of data, it looks like it pulled almost 6 gigabytes of data. So that's quite a bit. Should be just about done here. It's got a lot of tiny files, so that takes a while sometimes. Any day now. Alright, and here are all of our files here. It actually does a 30-second counters also, so if you want to look at this in the perfmon, you can. There's our individual folders for our nodes, and then here is like all of our cluster information. There's all of our cluster logs, so if we want to review the cluster logs, we can look at those. Yeah, there's just a ton of information here. Let me run. Let's open this up here. You can come in here and actually look at this. Now, like I said, if you really want to, you can run some type of interpreter to pull in all this information and make a easier to read report. But if you come through, you can actually see, like, here's one of my OS, I think that's my OS drive right there. So yeah, oh, this is the yeah, this is one of my OS drives. You know, it's got all this information about all your drives. Tells you where they're connected on your backplane. It'll tell you, if it's in if you're running a backplane that has the SCSI enclosure service, it'll actually tell you what slot they're in, and you can blink and unblink them, so you can identify them a lot easier. Yeah, there's tons of info in here. Let's get physical disk. You can run a gut cluster. Tells you where everything's auto balancer mode set to 2, balancer level set to 1, which is I think it's default. I don't think it's aggressive. There's no backups in progress. My block cache size is 2048, which is 2 gigs. There's just a ton of info in here. And like I said, not all of this can be useful, may be useful to you necessarily, but if you have an OEM vendor, such as Dell, HP, Data On, something like that, a lot of times they'll ask you to run this report, and basically it's so that they can go in and interpret it, and make them, look through the logs, and they can tell you what's going on with your server if you're having some issues. That's how to install and run SDDC. Like I said, there's just a ton of information in here. It even gets your local application logs. You can come in here and look at the individual cluster node and see what NICs you have in here. Tells you what speed they are, if index, all sorts of good stuff. So it's a really useful tool. Like I said, if you have an OEM vendor, they'll probably ask you to run it at some point just to get the information, like I said, to validate that everything is configured correctly. So that's how to install it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any other ideas about what to make a video about, please leave a comment. Appreciate it. Bye.